everyone, my name is Rachel and today we are coming back to look at our Genesis as history book, and we are going to be reading a chapter that's a bit of a strange one because it's basically a transcript from a video they did on their website and on YouTube. It's a video, interestingly, with the comments disabled and the like to dislike buttons disabled. Take from that what you will. In this chapter they address the question, does the Bible really say that God created everything in just 6 days 6,000 years ago? Now, most people will recognise that the evidence that we have in the world points to the conclusion, no. But not these guys. So we're going to take a look at what's in this chapter, and we're going to actually be looking at the video because there are some minor differences between the video and like the book chapter, but I just thought the video would be way more kind of interesting and engaging for you guys. And you can see that it's definitely not scripted and badly acted. It's a perfectly natural conversation. It's really not. It's kind of cringy to watch, but I thought you guys might enjoy it. So we're going to be looking at that rather than me like reading out bits from the book. Now, this video is, and I quote, a dialogue between Dan, a seminary student who is currently exploring what he believes about Genesis, and Dave, a seasoned mentor who holds a Genesis as history position. He presents a biblical case for recent creation. After the nice little awkward opening bit, they talk about these 4 different ways to read or interpret the creation account in the Bible.
So, you've always been someone that I respect, especially when it comes to your knowledge of science and the Bible.
So what's on your mind?
Well, I'm getting a little confused on how many ways there are to interpret the Bible.
Got some examples?
In our Genesis class, for example, we explored the creation account, but there's like 4 ways to read it.
Only 4?
Yeah, so there's the literal historical view, the day-age view, the progressive creation, and the gap theory.
Now, this video doesn't really go into much detail or explain what these mean, so I travelled all the way to Wikipedia, and I think let's just allow that to help us out and give us some explanations. So, the literal young Earth view refers to the belief that God created the Earth in roughly 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, exactly as told in Genesis, in 6 24-hour days. People who believe this view believe that life was created during a short time in its current form. The day-age view refers to people who believe that the Earth was created in 6 days, but not a literal 24-hour day. They could be long periods from thousands to billions of years long, so the Earth could be like 4.5 billion years old in their mind. Progressive creation refers to the belief that God created new life forms gradually over a period of hundreds to millions of years. Creation by God happened in rapid bursts followed by periods of stasis. Macroevolution is rejected, but microevolution is accepted, which we know is silly because they're the same thing. The only difference is the period of time it occurs over, right? And finally, gap theory refers to the belief that there were 24-hour periods where God was creating. There was also a gap of potentially millions of years between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. Okay, so I've taken those kind of explanations kind of from Wikipedia and paraphrased them. So I think that's a pretty good explanation of kind of like the overview of what they're going to be talking about in this video, but let's just get on with what they have to say, because these guys are literal Genesis believers, they're literal young Earth creationists, and they're going to be arguing for this point throughout this video.
Okay, so which one do you think you believe?
Well, I mean, I think there's a little bit of truth in all of them. I mean, does there have to be one correct view?
Well, since we're talking about like an objective historical event that actually happened, yeah, kinda.
Using the genealogies to date when Adam was created, about 6,000 years ago.
Genealogies?
Yeah, look, in Genesis 5, it tells us how old each of the patriarchs were when they had their children. You add those years between each generation and you get a pretty good estimate of when Adam was created.
Sounds reliable.
Except it's not, and it doesn't sound reliable. These aren't like accurate, reliable records of people who actually lived. We don't know for sure if they lived, we don't know for sure when they lived. These aren't official documents, they aren't taken from a census or birth certificates or anything else like that. We don't know if these people actually existed, they're just characters in a book which could very easily be fiction. There's nothing to corroborate that they existed at these times and with these ages when certain events happened. I mean, there are a lot of things, such as people living to be like 910, 830, 782 years old, that suggest that this is a bunch of fiction, because there are no actual records of human people living that long, except in the Bible. And again, we can't use the Bible as evidence of the Bible. That makes sense. So I know I say it a lot, but just because the Bible says something, it doesn't make it true.
But even if there were gaps in the genealogy, say a few decades here or there, there's certainly not thousands or millions of extra years supposed by the other creation views.
Seems to work with a creation of about 6,000 years ago. So from what I see here, most other creation accounts disagree with 6,000 years, ordinary days or the genealogies, right?
Exactly. Instead, people insert millions of years.
Well, as we've established, the genealogies aren't a reliable source of evidence, or, you know, we can't use them to age the Earth. That just seems silly, doesn't it? So I'm pretty sure that saying that most creation accounts don't, disagree with the genealogies, I'm pretty sure that just makes those theories seem more likely and makes the literal Earth view less likely.
So can they be reconciled? Or is there really only one creation story?
I know I've said it before, but yes, there is only one creation story. And it's not even a creation story. It's more like just a series of events that naturally happened over a long period of time. There's no kind of, you know, this story says this and this story says that, and we can interpret this story in this way and this story in this way. Because that's not how the Earth formed. That's not how we got here. We got here through a series of events that either happened or didn't happen. Like, there's not really a lot of room for interpretation. We can interpret evidence. I feel like I'm not explaining this well, but do you know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, maybe this happened and maybe this happened, because it either happened or it didn't. Because it's real life, not a story.
If each day in Genesis 1 was 1,000 years, on day 3 God made the plants, but on day 4 he made the sun. We know that plants need the sun to survive, so if each day was 1,000 years, the plants would all have died long before the sun rose on the 4th day. Also, flying insects were created on the 5th day to pollinate the plants and trees that were created on the 3rd day.
They're good points.
Okay, so they're actually like edging towards logic here, and it feels like a really good step forward, except then they just completely miss the point. There's no way the sun just appeared after the Earth had been created, never mind plants. They recognize that, you know, there's something not quite right about the order of things happening in the creation story, and then there's certain things that maybe didn't happen. But then instead of saying, oh, well then maybe the creation story is just a story, they kind of start to try and twist it and say, oh, but you know, plants could be without the sun for 24 hours, so that's fine. Which we know is a bunch of crap, but it's just like the order of things happening in the creation story should tell you that the creation story is impossible, that it's fiction, whichever interpretation you want to use. But these two just completely ignore that, and they just pick out the bits that they want that fit with their own literal creation young Earth story that they want. You know, as long as it fits their agenda, they'll run with it and dismiss everything else. Which is a bit shady, to be honest, isn't it?
The creation account seems to make more sense if the 6 days are actual days.
No. Actually, that doesn't make sense. But that's okay, because fiction doesn't always have to make sense, does it? That's why it's fiction.
It says here that 1,000 years is like a watch in the night. But a night's watch does not last 1,000 years, does it?
No, that would be quite the watch. Tons of coffee.
A quadruple shot.
Quad shot, yeah.
These guys are hilarious and like totally down with the kids.
In my Hebrew class, we're learning that the word for day is yom. And can't that word mean different things in different contexts?
True, it can, but it all goes back to context, right? And how it's used in Genesis 1. Here, read this in verse 5.
It says, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
What stands out to you about that verse?
The Jewish day starts at sundown, so it sounds like God is starting a new day.
Exactly. Here, yom is used along with evening and morning, followed by a number after each of these days of creation. And it repeats over and over at the end of each creation day. This makes them real 24-hour days.
Now, see, what this means is that the author wanted them to seem like real 24-hour days, but there's still not any proof that any of this actually happened, never mind that it happened within a 24-hour period. Like, mostly because that would have been impossible, but, you know.
God is all-powerful. Why couldn't he have created everything in an instant? Why 6 days?
Well, I think he was setting up a system of days for us to live in.
I think it's interesting that this kind of completely ignores the fact that on different planets and in different parts of, like, you know, our solar system, never mind the rest of the universe, a day isn't 24 hours. They have different length days. But, you know, they don't bother talking about the rest of the universe because apparently we're God's favourites and everything he did was about us, right? No. We are not the centre of the universe.
Another thing to consider is that God created time on day one. Before then, time as we knew it did not exist.
Wow. I never really thought about when God created time.
It's hard to wrap our minds around existence before time.
It's because he didn't. He didn't create time. This is like... Okay, so time is like a really super complex thing, and I'm not an expert in it, and I don't want to like sit here and tell you about like the history of time and things like that, but like oversimplifying a lot, like measuring time and the fact that, you know, like a day is split up into 24 hours and 60 minutes and 60 seconds, like there's logic to it, but it is still a man-made thing. We're the ones who decided we need to measure time and have this way of like measuring it and keeping track of it, and like God didn't create time. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the right person to be talking about this.
All of the non-literal creation stories compromise on the 24-hour day and use long ages instead, even though it's clear in the Bible that God created on an ordinary day timeline.
Yeah, it's true. That would mean that only one of the views in Genesis can be accurate.
I do find it interesting that they seem to enjoy refuting these other kind of like creation story interpretations, but they don't actually bother to refute or debunk the actual like science that opposes what they're saying. It's interesting, but also it's not surprising because, you know, if you try and put like evidence that is basically the Bible says this up against like actual science and objective evidence and things that have been peer reviewed, it is just not really going to hold up, is it? Like, let's be honest.
Dan, do you believe the Ten Commandments were written by God's own hand?
I thought Moses wrote them on stone.
Take a look. It says here in Exodus 31:18, he gave Moses 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone written with the finger of God.
So it looks like God himself wrote the Ten Commandments. You think he was right or left-handed?
Dan, God is always right.
Really?
Oh, you jokers, you. Hilarious.
What happens if we don't believe in a literal 6 days?
Well, if the days in Genesis 1 are not real days, the only alternative is that Genesis is poetic or figurative.
Yeah, I heard that in class.
The big challenge is, where does figurative end and the truth start? If the genealogies starting with Adam were contrived and the earth is much older than 6,000 years, then what? Was Adam real? The Tower of Babel? The resurrection?
No. Okay, but seriously, like, now they're just kind of handing it to us. Like, just I want them to keep going and just keep following this logic, right? Because, like, they're starting to kind of see it and realize that, no, this doesn't make sense. No, they weren't real. And they're getting so close to realizing it, but they just don't want to make that jump, do they? And it's like, Again, it's kind of like the case of seeing the same data and the same evidence, but coming to 2 completely different conclusions. Like, as atheists, we see things like inconsistencies and stuff, and we see issues, and we see, you know, this line between, like, where does the figurative end and the literal start? We see that and say, well, it must all be figurative, it must all be fictional, it's all just a story, right? Because that's the kind of logical thing. But then these guys are like, well, no, I want to believe. So, well, it must all be literal, and we must believe it all, even if it seems impossible. And it's not logical, but it's... Oh, I feel like they're getting kind of like so close to realizing, but they just don't want to make that leap, do you know?
Besides, the other views of creation you mentioned emerged just in the last couple of centuries. Before the Enlightenment, the majority of church teachings held to the historical view of Genesis.
Oh, isn't that interesting? As we discovered evidence and learnt more about science and our history, our conclusions changed. Isn't that funny? Anyone would think that was how science worked.
The Enlightenment?
Back in the 18th century, the elite in society decided that they wanted to get away from the Bible and create their own truth. Man became his own God.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, you know, accepting responsibility for our own lives is scary, isn't it? It's terrifying. But it's also part of being an adult, and you shouldn't be allowed to just keep avoiding it like this and just passing off the responsibility to God. It's so immature. Sorry, but take some responsibility for your own life, your own actions, your own purpose, you know.
Unfortunately, it seeped into the church and continues today. Imagine how these other creation views undermine the authority of Scripture. They insert millions of years that aren't in the text.
You say undermine, I say disprove. What are you gonna do?
Wow. So if you allow millions of years in there, you also allow evolution in.
Yep. This caving in on the authority of Scripture certainly doesn't help Christianity.
So we've been talking about the Old Testament, but is there any evidence for literal creation in the New Testament?
Actually, there is.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, can you believe he knew he was gonna say that? So it's just that this whole thing was scripted, isn't it? Sorry, I'm so like bitchy today. Anyway, this next part of the video, he just takes a chance to say that, you know, Jesus referenced the Old Testament events so we can trust them, blah, 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 and then this.
Okay. This is all really convincing, but what difference does it make if it was 6 days, 6,000 years ago, or 1,000,000 years ago? I mean, all that matters is that we believe in Jesus, right?
Oh, that's a great question, and there are a lot of great answers. I guess when you use God's infallible word, it does get predictable, but also reliable. When we look back at past events to try to figure out what happened, we call that historical science. Kind of like using forensics to find out who did the crime.
And just please don't compare forensic science to the Bible. They're just not even on the same level, are they?
You see, those who believe in a long age and those who believe in a young earth both have the same data.
So what's the difference? I mean, if it's the same data, how do we get such different ideas about the history of life on Earth?
Well, one submits to the author of Scripture, relying on Scripture to tell us about the history of the world, our origins and our purpose. The other assumes it takes billions of years to form the universe, all based on evolutionary views of historical science.
So you mean you just ignore the data that doesn't fit your story? Because that's not real science. Sorry, but that's not how we find out the truth. That's stupid.
It really does come down to these two choices, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
What two choices? Like, do you want to trust objective evidence or a storybook? Because if that's the choice, I know which one I would pick every single time.
And the other important issue to consider is death before sin.
It's either death and suffering for millions of years before Adam, or a perfect creation marred by original sin only 6,000 years ago.
Hey, you know what? No one said the truth was nice, but that still doesn't change the fact that it's the truth. Nature can be ugly and harsh, but none of that changes reality, does it? Like, I know that sounds like really mean, but just because the truth sounds nasty or scary to you doesn't mean you can just dismiss it and choose to believe the nice story instead. And then they go on about some other stuff for a while and just, I don't know, this is like an 18-minute video and I started to find it really boring. And they were just sort of saying a lot of the same stuff and none of it really mattered that much. So, yeah, they are just some of my thoughts on this video that goes along with this chapter of the Genesis history book. And basically, it's just their way of saying, hey, the Earth was created in 6 days, 6,000 years ago, and here's all our evidence why. And it's not real evidence, is it? None of it's real evidence. It's just not convincing at all. So I will link the original video for this down in the description below, and you can go and watch it in its entirety if you want and you have the time. But like I say, it's like almost 20 minutes long, so it's a bit of a time investment in that sense. So I just tried to pick out some of the kind of like interesting talking points and some of the bits where they're like blatantly wrong in this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But if you have made it through this far, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you again soon. Just wanted to say a quick huge thank you to everyone who is supporting me on Patreon this month, with a special thank you to these guys: Ewan Matthewson, Secular Reason, Daniel Clark, Lachie Scott, Jadeon Sheppard and Matthew Meinema. You guys are all incredible. Everyone else is linked in the description below or on the end screen. You're all amazing, and just thank you so much.